So when I get what I want, I call, I'm so glad, I'm so happy, it gives me so much pleasure. Are we really saying, my God, I got what I want because at last the desire is over. The desire has stopped. And therefore, what I'm really looking for is relief from all the desire. And we think, in our foolishness in this world, that the object will end the desire. And we know, surely we've been on this earth long enough, to know that we get a pleasurable sensation, a little relief from the wanting and the stress of it. And we think, oh, great. I mean, just take smoking a bidi. Classic. God, the desire over, I got a bidi. Some of you have been praying for the bidi for the 10th day, I know. It gives the relief from the desire, the sensation is there, the pleasure is there, etc., etc. But the desire is not resolved. It's just waiting around, inwardly, for something else. So we look at our life and we say, a primary force in our life is the force of attraction towards. The force of attraction is a very powerful one. My old teacher, Ajahn Dhammadharo, I was just asking the monks, one of the monks over at lunch. I haven't heard for several months. He's now 86, 87 years of age. He lived in the Vipassana monastery in Nakhon Si Thammarat. The name of the monastery was Wat China. Not the most exciting of names. It translates as the monastery at the end of the rice paddy. And in the 2-3 years or so of being in the monastery, and most of the time, in fact, only the only Westerner in the monastery there, the kind of teachings which were going on and being pointed out to us. And once he would take some magnets, I always remember this, and he would build up a little set of magnets. So he would come in the hall, sit on the throne, have the magnets, and he'd have one set of magnets and make a human being out of them. And then he'd have other sets of magnets around, and magnet might be whatever, another human being or some goods or whatever. And he'd get it out, and he'd say the relationship can be fine, look, just flowing along, etc., etc. And all that can coexist together, work well together, be in harmony together, no problem. But something can go on when it goes from love and connection, which is normal and human and healthy and rather beautiful, but it can move in such a way that attraction in its unsatisfactory sense is, I must have. And if I don't have, I lose my peace of mind. I must have, and if I don't have, I lose my peace of mind. It's called attraction. It's pulled toward. And so out would come the magnets, every 2 or 3 months, and we say, oh, here we go, magnet story. And you just move, and then there's a moment where, boom, and the magnets are jammed onto each other, and he says, look, stuck. Stuck with because of the magnet. And sometimes that is not a question of whether it's love and connection and warmth, but it's the holding and getting stuck with. And then all the problem of freeing ourselves up, getting out of the entanglement, getting out of that force of attraction that gets stuck with. It's an extraordinary thing for us as human beings to, as I said earlier, to look at this dynamic of giving and receiving, being receptive to an offering. And the teachings of the Buddha explore this beautifully and significantly. So the Buddha has used this term dana, D-A-N-A. And sometimes in the tradition it will be referring to what is called I haven't forgotten the song, by the way, hang in. What is called the 4 requisites. Food, clothing, shelter, roof over our head, place to stay, and medicine. These are 4 basic requisites of life. And as the Buddha said, if a person can't eat, and many people in this region of Bihar in this terrible plight every day, how can a person contemplate on life? How can a person meditate? How can a person develop as a human being if every single day of their life they don't know if they're going to have the chance to eat? It's the basic human requisite. And it's an awful thing in this world that you and I should be living in a planet today where there are as many obese people as there are hungry. It's a tragic thing. And obesity is defined as 20% above average body weight. Now you take Christopher, 182 centimeters, around about 66 kilos. So a average weight for my height apparently is 74 kilos. So accordingly I'm at least 8 kilos underweight. So if I was 20% above or more, I'd have to be more than 90 kilos in weight to qualify there. So to have this terrible situation of the desperately poor and the desperately hungry can't explore the Dharma. That's why the Buddha said that basically to eat is the basic core requisite of life. But there are others too, of course, and that is to give each other attention. It's not just a physical thing. We have to nourish each other in life with love. Babies can't grow without love. Human beings can't grow without love. And there are many demonstrations of what love is. And we have to ask ourselves, as a human being, since love is so core and so central to human life, not just spiritual teachers, the whole culture. So we're getting near the song, don't go away. The whole culture is interested in love. Look at the movies and the films and the books and the novels and all those self-help books, multiple ones, and those Buddhist books that people like me write, and those plays and theatre and entertainment. How much of it hasn't got some reference to love? The soap operas. We're keenly interested in love. It's a central feature of human life. It affects us enormously. Therefore, part of the exploration of sharing and giving and receiving is about love. Jesus says love is the kingdom of God. He gives it the tremendous significance. So, all right, the song. I know you've all been waiting for that. So the background to this is. Oh, it's already started. Wait, not yet. Turn it off, please. I love the enthusiasm, Zohar, but the preacher must preach, And all right. So about last year, very, very, very quickly. Last year, in Britain, of which some 5 million people voted, by the way, we love doing this in the West, don't we? What was the greatest, blah, blah, in this case, greatest rock song of all time? People voted on all of this, and they got down to the last 100, and they got down to the last 20, etc., etc. And rather, I felt, being out of the hippie culture, out of it, in it, that the song which was chosen as the greatest rock song of all time rather touched me. I was rather delighted because it's also one of my favourites. And the song is Imagine by John Lennon. And I'm no doubt that this evening Brian Dillon will be singing that to us at around 7:30, and some other Dharma songs as well. Although I have noticed in the last year or two, he's one or two romantic songs have crept in, but we'll We can live with it. We can live with it. All right. So, my daughter. So one of the other forces there is, two forces have enormous impact on our life. One is attraction, as I referred to, and the other to attend to is aversion. Aversion. And that can go from the most subtle I don't like to dropping of bombs. It's all got as an undercurrent in its movement of the mind, it's got as its undercurrent, I don't like. And human beings, we so easily imprisoned to our aversion. And this then aversion inflicts itself on life with all the awful and terrible consequences that go along with it. To give you a little small illustration, I was crossing from Israel into Palestine a few months ago. I was going to the village of Nablus, the town, of Nablus, which is the main town on the West Bank. One has to go through the Israeli checkpoints. It isn't easy because they obviously do not want people going into that part of the world to see and witness for themselves what's being done. So my driver, who was in fact, there are only a few hundred left, I didn't realize, is a Samaritan, in this case, a good Samaritan, who very kindly was willing to get me into Nablus, working with those who are working with the victims of this tyrannical occupation, and for the social workers, the families of the martyrs, they would say, but the terrible suffering there, and of course the suffering that's inflicted again on the Israeli community, which is equally obscene. And we just got to the last little checkpoint, and behind the walls, we didn't realize there was a checkpoint, right just before we got into Nablus, 4 Israeli soldiers suddenly appeared from behind, hiding from behind a wall in an olive grove with their rifles there, and stopped the car, walked up to the car, and looked at me, looked at the driver, and said rather nervously and rather aggressively, what are you doing here? So I smiled and I said, I'm a tourist. He said, he turned to the other soldier, while the other 2 soldiers were walking around the car, as they do, want to see what's in the car, blah, blah. He looked at the other soldier, and he looked at me, he said, hasn't anybody told you there's a war going on around here? I said, yeah, I heard about it, etc. And it was an incredibly hot day. It was about 40 degrees. This was end of the summer. It was 40 degrees. It really was an incredibly hot day. And then he said to me, he said, it's incredibly hot. He said, would you go into Nablus and get us some cartons of orange juice? And I looked at the driver, and it was a kind of ethical dilemma here. One voice inside of me said, Sodom. Why should I go and get an occupying army, which I do not believe have any rights whatsoever to be in the nation, the country of Palestine, have no right to be there, go and get them some orange juice. And the other voice, it's true, and the other voice inside of me said, God, just 4 young guys. The officer was no more than 24. The youngest was about 19 or 20. I think, poor sod. And he said, look, there are people around here trying to kill us, etc. So I looked at the driver. The driver's also, because it would be risk for him, providing orange juice to the enemy hardly making merit, is it, amongst his community? So we, just moved there, and then he looked at the passport, he got on the mobile, blah, 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 and let us through. So we drove down the road, and then we just got just on the town where the shops are, edge of Nablus. And I said, oh, sorry. Stopped the car. The driver went in the shop, 4 cartons of orange juice, came out, we turned the car around, we drove back. They were wondering, because they were looking at us, because as we were driving up the road, they jumped out from the wall there. I said to the driver, I'll give them the orange juice, you don't give them. I said, here's 4 cartons of orange juice, but there are 2 conditions before you can have it. Well, I said, one condition is you do not shoot any Palestinians. And the second condition is you don't get shot. Shalom. Handed it over and we went before anybody saw us. So, what to do?